Breaking news, the Falcons have placed Devonta Freeman on IR. And he's back, folks. Le'Veon Bell will return Monday and report to the Steelers. That's actually fake news. It seems like the amount of busts, especially at the running back position, are piling up, and there's so many busts this year. And after overusing Jameis Winston in all my YouTube thumbnails and on my social media posts, he did not disappoint. What's going on, fantasy football fans? I'm your host, Hussein the Brain, and you're watching The Couch. These are my waiver wire pickups for week 7. This video is sponsored by Pro Football Focus. They watch every play of every player. Their grades are awesome. I personally love the wide receiver cornerback matchup chart. I love looking at their weekly matchups. And now they have PFF Fantasy, which is a trustworthy source. I would not promote these guys if I didn't trust them, if they weren't so well respected. Make sure to get PFF Edge today. Get full access for PFF's player projections, fantasy draft resources, matchup charts, and of course, their award-winning fantasy content. Use promo code MVP20 to save 20% on your subscription. And if you're into high stakes and NFL lines like I am, you can also get PFF Elite. That's what I got. So make sure you guys sign up at profootballfocus.com and use promo code MVP20 to save 20%. Join PFF Fantasy today and prepare to win. Also, guys, it'll really help support this channel. Thank you so much. The bye weeks are getting more and more potent, guys. 4 teams are on bye this week. Those are the Packers, Raiders, Steelers, and Seahawks. Moving on to quarterbacks. Lots of quarterbacks to add. Look, Dalton, probably owned in your league. Mitchell Trubisky, maybe he's available. Those two guys have really good matchups. If you watch my DFS videos, you know I like to target a lot of quarterbacks playing against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. It's almost a guaranteed shootout when you have the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes slinging the rock. And also, the Chiefs defense isn't that good. So Andy Dalton, I think he has a really high ceiling and a really high floor. He's a great start, especially if you drafted a guy like Russell Wilson or Big Ben or whoever quarterback you have that's on bye. Mitchell Trubisky going against the Patriots, that's not that bad right there. Baker Mayfield, I really like his upside this week. Again, a great matchup going against the Bucs. Seems like any offensive player going against the Bucs does well no matter the position. So I really like that. Just keep tabs on his ankle injury. His injuries seem minor. He was hobbling a little bit week 6. So let's see how he does in practice this week. Dak Prescott, I told you guys to drop him last week. I know I was wrong. I know all you guys knew that he was going to go off. No, you didn't. You didn't know that. Nobody knew that. Don't lie to me. You didn't know he was going to go off against the Jaguars. But he did well. That was quite the shocker. I thought the Jaguars defense was the absolute safest defense to pick last week. But what do I know, huh? Defenses. They're so unpredictable sometimes, but I take full responsibility. Yeah, and I got it. I say the Jags D safe, they end up not being. Joe Flacco, decent matchup against the Saints. He's been pretty good this year. I'd say Joe Flacco's a high-end QB too, so a great spot start if you need it. A great bye week fill-in. Then we have Alex Smith going against the Cowboys. Blake Bortles, who you absolutely can't trust. Eli Manning, who you can trust even less. Now, everybody's seen the Giants play. They know the O-line sucks. They know Eli sucks. And the play calling is suspect. Not necessarily the plays being called are horrible, but sometimes they have to call these boring plays because the O-line and Eli Manning is just underperforming so much. Nonetheless, this game could be a shootout, folks. We know that the Falcons' defense is awful. With the injuries they have and what's been going on there, they are just not good. And Vegas has this as a really high-scoring game, and it's almost certain that Eli Manning is going to have to throw the ball in the fourth quarter. But like I said, as far as trust factor, basically out of all the guys on this list, I have the least amount of trust for Eli Manning. So a ceiling is okay. His floor is ground level, very low, almost doesn't even exist. You can keep falling and falling on falling if you're going to lean on Eli Manning's floor. Then we have Sam Darnold going against Minnesota. Marcus Mariota, we can't trust him. See, this is like super duper deep league, like dual quarterback league and whatnot. We're getting into really deep leagues here. I think you could tell that when I mentioned guys like Blake Bortles and Eli Manning, right? Especially after that. Then we have a Derek Carr who is on bye, then has a couple decent matchups. Of course, the Raiders and Derek Carr has been atrocious this year. Keep tabs on Tannehill and Osweiler if you're in this sort of league where these guys are valuable. Tannehill may be out. I don't know. He might be back this week, may miss several weeks. We don't know, but Osweiler did well against the Bears. Another shocker right there. And Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills quarterback, he's likely going to miss this week and probably more than 1 week. So Nathan Peterman would fill his shoes. As you guys know, Nathan Peterman is one of the worst quarterbacks we've ever seen in a long time. With the news of Devontae Freeman being placed on IR, he's basically out for the season. He may return, but by that time, it's going to be around semifinals for fantasy football. So Ito Smith, he's going to get a lot of carries, a lot of snaps. And, of course, Tevin Coleman's the main guy, but we saw Ito Smith. I think the guy scored 3 touchdowns, 1 touchdown each game, the last 3 games. That's pretty impressive. The Falcons' offense is looking good this year. Then we have Peyton Barber, has a good matchup against the Browns. Duke Johnson, with all the injuries and decimation at the receiving position. Look, Corey Coleman was out for the Browns a long time ago. Then Josh Gordon's out. Now Rashard Higgins is injured. They have a lot of other injuries. Duke Johnson, we know he's a really good pass catcher, not a bad running back. So in PPR leagues, keep tabs on the injuries to the Browns. And if, you're in PPR, you can do a lot worse than Duke Johnson when these bye weeks start hitting, which is now. Coach said Nick Chubb's going to get more carries again, and he hasn't. He's been getting like 3 carries a game, like exactly. So I don't know what's the deal with that. I mean, we're looking at, there's 3 running backs on the Browns, so this is not an ideal situation. But Nick Chubb, I think he's worth an add. It's more like a RB5 or RB6 if you have the bench space. And you really don't want to start him unless you're in a 16-team league or a deep league, even if your running backs are on bye. But you know how running backs are, guys, this year. A lot of us are desperate for tight ends. A lot of us are desperate for running backs. We also have Dante Foreman, who should be coming back from injury. Maybe not this week, but maybe next week. We'll see. I see Drake taking less of a role. He just hasn't been that ground and pound guy, in between the tackles, reliable guy, 16, 17 carries a game. He's just not that guy. And that's going to be more Frank Gore. I see Frank Gore getting 10, 11 carries, maybe 12 carries. And he's been solid. Like, this is not a guy with a ton of upside. He's not going to do anything great. But 9 carries minimum, guaranteed. I like that. Just compare him to Nick Chubb, who's 3 carries guaranteed. Probably rather go with Frank Gore, 9 carries guaranteed, if you're looking for a floor, something a little more reliable, as opposed to Nick Chubb, who's more of a stash. Then we have Latavius, who's going to get a huge boost if Dalvin Cook misses yet another game. Dalvin Cook has only played a handful of games his NFL career. The man's been injured. You pick up Alfred Morris last week, and you're in for a shock because you think Breda's going to be out. You think Alfred Morris is going to be the guy. Decent matchup against the Packers, and you got Morris slated as an RB2. Then boom, he's basically does nothing. He gets like 1 snap the entire game. Gets replaced by Raheem Mostert, and Breda's the man. Look, he's not 100%, and then Mostert's RB2 on the Niners. Niners offense is not that bad. Had to put him on this list if you're desperate for a running back. A little bit of a messy situation there, but it's safe to say that Alfred Morris sucks. He's droppable at this point. And then I had to put Ronald Jones here. I don't know why. I don't expect much from him, but I guess he's a stash in deeper leagues. For wide receivers, Marquise Goodwin, man, with those huge plays against the Packers. This guy's really good. He's really fast. I had to put him on top of this list. But there are a lot of other great wide receivers. Chris Godwin, Robbie Anderson, Enunwa's injured. Christian Kirk, Cole Beasley, Antonio Callaway, who I think has just as much upside as anybody else on this list, but he's not been playing well. The man's getting targets. The man has speed. He just has to put it together and actually showcase some of his skill. The matchup is so sweet here. And I think I'm going to be picking him in DFS, in GPPs, because I just love the upside here. But can you trust this guy? Is he reliable? Absolutely not. But the upside is so great, guys, that if I had a couple, like I had Doug Baldwin or whoever on bye, then I would feel comfortable starting Callaway. I mean, not like, I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but I would do it because the upside is so high there and the matchup is so great there. I'd do it. Because all it takes is one play with Callaway. Then we have Paul Richardson. Seems like Alex Smith's favorite wide receiver. Jermaine Kearse is going to pick up the slack with Enunwa out. Taylor Gabriel, Albert Wilson, Willie Snead. Chester Rogers, he's been getting a lot of targets. I think he's got 11 targets week 4, 11 targets week 5, and 10 targets week 6. Look at that memory, baby. Or you could pick up a random Jaguars wide receiver and start him. Cameron Meredith, Traquan Smith. Keep tabs on Ted Ginn, okay? As Ted Ginn is out, I think Traquan Smith is just replacing Ted Ginn. I think Ted Ginn's going down. Traquan Smith's going up. I think this is a clear-cut replacement for Ginn. Maybe whether or not Ginn gets injured, he'll still eventually replace Ginn. We have Tyrwan Taylor, the number 2 wide receiver for the Titans. DJ Moore, who I really liked, but he fumbled twice, and that's not good. Kelvin Benjamin, decent matchup against the Colts, and Terrell Pryor. Wow, wide receivers are deep, man, super deep. For tight ends, I got Evan Ingram here. Look, he's owned in like 75% of leagues, but that's still pretty low, actually. It should be more like 90%, I'd say. And a lot of people dropped him because he was injured or they're in shallow leagues. But I think he'll be back this week. I think he's going to play this week. He's coming back from injury. He's practicing. Evan Ingram is a must-add in all formats. There's not a lot of tight ends out there. You got to add Ingram. With Brait being Winston's favorite target or go-to guy or whatever, still, Brait only got 1 target and Howard got 4. So Howard is, dare I say, a tight end 1 moving forward. CJ Uzomah is one of my favorite tight ends this week, and also moving forward, I have him as a really high-end tight end 2, maybe even a tight end 1 some weeks, especially this week. And look, if Eric Berry's not playing, this game's going to be a shootout. Dalton's going to be throwing the ball, and I absolutely love CJ Uzomah. Eifert is out. Tyler Kroft is injured. Don't know when he's coming back. So, man, you could do a lot worse than CJU. We have RSJ going against Denver. Hayden Hurst, more of a stash. He didn't really get a lot of snaps, hardly any, and hasn't gotten any targets. But the Baltimore Ravens keep praising him. I like him. I think eventually he'll be good, but I don't know. That's why I have him as a stash. Then we have the Cowboys tight end, James O'Shaughnessy. Niles Paul's out. ASJ is out. O'Shaughnessy becomes the main tight end for the Jaguars. Then we have Vernon Davis, Jeff Hireman, and Dallas Goedert. Not too many sexy defenses this week, but the Colts, nobody owns the Colts D, and they're top of my list, man. This is going to be a low-scoring game, and this is going to be a game where the Colts should win. Now, with that being said, that means the defense should be good, especially if Nathan Peterman is starting. So, woo! I think this is the most excited we've ever been for the Colts defense in fantasy ever, or in a really, really, really long time. Like maybe when they won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning a while back. I don't know, but it's been a long time. I'm firing up the Colts D this week. Look, you could do a lot worse. And then we have the Chargers D going against the Titans. Sweet matchup right there. A little bit risky, though, the Chargers D. They have some good weapons, but sometimes they do well. Sometimes they allow a lot of points. Broncos D going against the Cardinals should be a low-scoring game. Thursday Night Football. Washington going against the Cowboys. That could be a low-scoring game as well. Now we're getting into deep league territory. Lions going against the Dolphins. Cardinals in that low-scoring game. And Cowboys D. Falcons D, which you can't trust because it could be a shootout, but still, I mean, you're going against Eli Manning, so there are points to be got there, whether it be sacks, strip fumbles, anything, interceptions, something sure to happen going against the Giants, right? And then we have the Dolphins going against the Lions if you're desperate. For kickers, I'm comfortable going with Carlos Santos against the Niners if Greg Zuerlein's not good to go. Now, if I had to answer if Zuerlein would play this week, I would say yes. I'm not sure, but if I had to guess if Zuerlein's going to play or not, I would say yes, he's going to play. He's been dropped in some leagues. As we know, he's one of the best kickers in the league, if not the best kicker, especially when we're talking about fantasy. And Dan Bailey's there. I didn't write who he plays because he's good this week. He's good long term. I have him in a few leagues. Adam Vinatieri, I don't usually like Vinatieri because of his situation, but this week is really good. He's playing at home in a dome. Great matchup going against the Bills. They should have the lead, and they will settle for field goals. So I really like Adam Vinatieri this week. We also have Matt Prater, Brandon McManus, Aldrick Rosas, Josh Lambo, and Ryan Suckup. By the way, guys, Matt Bryant is not playing this week. I believe the Falcons just picked up Tavecchio, the former Raiders kicker, so he's not that bad. I didn't add him on this list yet, but just wanted to let you know. Make sure you guys check out Pro Football Focus, and when you sign up, use MVP20. It really helps support this channel. We have 2 YouTube channels. A lot of people don't know that, so make sure you're subscribed to this one. If you're not, that's the Fantasy Couch channel, this channel. And we have a second channel, that orange couch icon over there, called Fantasy Couch Podcast. Make sure you're subscribed to both. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Dislike if you think I'm ugly. And I'll see you guys on the next video / live stream.